Hi, welcome to the Influence Women podcast. I'm your host, Kathleen Cooke, and I'm thrilled that you're here with us today. And we have a great podcast with Lisa Arnold. She's a writer, producer, and director. You know, often we don't hear from a woman's director, but boy, she's got some tips and wisdom for you today. So stay tuned to the Influence Women podcast. Now, don't forget, you need to like us and subscribe to our podcast if you haven't. Also, hit the bell below so that you can be notified for each Influence Women podcast. Stay tuned now for Lisa Arnold. Welcome to the Influence Women podcast. I'm so excited to have Lisa Arnold with us. She's a veteran filmmaker and a writer, director, producer. She's pretty much done it all in the industry. I'm going to let her share her journey with you. She's been a participant in as a director, writer, producer in so many different films. One Nation Under God, God's Not Dead, Christmas Angel. I could go on and on. When I'm looking at her resume, I'm seeing all of these film awards, Lisa, that you've won over the years, from being best director, best producer, best writer. I know that you're the executive director right now of Check the Gate Productions.
Yeah.
You've got an ICFF and a KIFF. You've been a recipient of their Outstanding Women in Film Award in the past. But so tell us, though, just how you got into this industry from the very beginning, and a little bit more about you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. I think what you're doing is absolutely incredible. And I love empowering other women, not only in this industry, but in every aspect of life. So thank you so much for having me on. This has been an interesting journey for me. I actually started out on stage. So I was a theater performance major at Auburn University. And then I did stage for several years. And then I was offered a live talk show by a Fox affiliate, and that introduced me to television. But again, it was still live production. And then I just missed acting. I missed being part of more creative side of things, and so I stepped away and went back to my roots. But I started acting in film and television at that time. And that was when Atlanta was doing pretty well, not like it is now by any means, but there was a little bit of work for everybody. The downside was that I didn't really like the work that I was being offered. And that's actually when I started writing and producing more and directing. So it really forced me into lanes that I did not know I wanted, but ended up absolutely falling in love with. Particularly just the whole aspect of making a film or a television series. To me, I thought I wouldn't like it at all because it was going to be very tedious, but it became this beautiful way to create and to see something go from the screen, from the page to the screen was just such an incredible experience for me. I can't say enough about it. I've
Yeah.
fallen in love with every aspect of it. But it did take away my love for being on camera and really brought up my love for being behind the camera. So I started producing for television and film in the 90s. I started writing early 2000, and I started directing in 2008. And really, when I moved to Louisiana, my emphasis was to bring faith and family uh, filmmaking to this area in particular. And so I really focused on that for many, many years. And to this day, that is my heart. I love to do any project that is family friendly, that is of faith, that is co-viewing, that is multi-generational. That is my passion.
Yes. Well, I love that you're in Louisiana doing this. We just recently launched Influence Women Baton Rouge, and I know
Yeah.
that our director there, Beth Townsend, is going to be connecting with you, and that you're going to be doing some speaking and connection there for our women there in the Louisiana area. But tell me, so often we do have women that are coming in, specifically watching this, listening and watching this podcast, who are from various parts of the world and parts of
Yeah.
the United States. How have you navigated the Hollywood industry, which we all tend to put it under that general heading? How
Yeah.
have you navigated the Hollywood industry from Louisiana?
Oh, I think that's a really interesting thing to bring up because I have to tell you, when I first started producing and directing my own projects, I really didn't engage with Hollywood. As I engaged as little as possible. In other words, I just wanted to get done what I felt like I was being called to do, and came up with formulas, within my own village to make it happen and make it work. And it wasn't until about 3 years ago the Lord really got in my face about it. And he was like, you're doing great work. You're doing work that you've been called to do. All of you are. And he was really speaking to my heart about the faith and film industry. And so he said, but Lisa, it takes a village. You've got to bring the body together.
Yes,
And
true.
at that point,
Collaboration.
I had not spent a lot of time making contacts. I had not spent a lot of time building a community, building a village. I was just trying to get something done, And and so I really took that message to heart, and I immediately just started reaching out first with people that I've known in the industry that I've just never had contact with, and then beyond that, definitely have reached out into every aspect, including distribution and marketing. And so the village that I have today is just a beautiful, incredible community of people who are like-minded, trying to get the same content out there. And it makes such a difference to have us pull together because we can open doors for each other, and we can support each other, and we can encourage each other, and we can, point each other in the right direction. So makes a huge difference. And I'm so grateful that the Lord really shook me up about that, because I have enjoyed the last 3 years much more than I ever have before.
Yeah.
So it's been really wonderful.
Well, you're speaking my language. You're speaking the influence women language. We
Okay.
believe in it, that it does take a village, and it's all about connection and collaboration. And
Yes.
it is wonderful that we have Zoom these days and other ways that we can connect, conferences and events that we can come together at and grow
Yeah.
relationships in. And that's what Influence Women, why I founded Influence Women years ago, not too many years ago, just a couple years ago, but just because I know how difficult it is for us to launch projects, and it gets more difficult every day. And we need each other. We need to collaborate. We need to have that village, that roster of names and contacts that we can resonate and change our culture. So you're speaking my language. One thing I also picked up from you that I loved, what you were doing, is you're kind of taking the bull by the horns, so to speak. You realized as an actor you had to start creating your own projects, and
Yeah.
as a producer and director, you had to delve into the distribution and to how to get your film seen, doing the PR and all of that. And so you didn't just sit back on your hands and say, oh, why, I can't do this, or, woe is me, but you just
All right.
went for it and developed those people around you. Speak to us about and encourage those women out there who are sitting on their hands, and they need to get going and being bold and courageous in developing their skills as actually.
Exactly. I mean, we all feel like we're called to a certain lane, so to speak, and many books about running in your lane, right? But you have to get out of your lane if you're in filmmaking and television, because nobody is going to make it happen like you are. It's particularly when it's your project. And so you just got to get beyond the boundaries and get comfortable with it. And one thing that really encouraged me is, if you ever go to Walt Disney World, right? I went to the leadership project that they had many, many years ago. And I'm not saying I'm an advocate for everything Walt Disney, but I thought what he did was really smart. He has all of his leaders step into all the roles underneath them. So one day they may be cleaning rooms, one day they're running a store, one day they're in the restaurant. They are walking in people's shoes so that they can understand what their role is, what their purpose is, what it takes for them to succeed, how to equip them. And I thought that was brilliant, so smart. And it really not only does it equip you in understanding all the different roles on, particularly on a film set, but it helps you to be respectful and responsible. For instance, my favorite thing to do is directing. That is my love of all loves. But the fact that I have all the producing experience helps me to understand how important the budget is, how important it is to stay on budget, how important it is to stay on schedule, you know? And I understand now that it is a hardship when it costs them an extra $13,000, you know, on a day because we ran over. You know, that can't happen. And so I carry that responsibility. And I make sure that I don't suffer on the visual creative side, but I work extremely hard on the front end, making sure I can get my day in. So I don't run long, so I don't cause havoc. So I show up to set immediately being able to get a shot off within the first 45 minutes if possible. That is always my goal. So walk
Yes.
in as many shoes as you can, do as much as you can. You know, the greatest thing about filmmaking and being in television as well is the collaboration and allowing everyone, if you can come to set as the leader, but come to set as the servant and understand that your role is to equip everybody, to give them a seat at the table, to collaborate with them, to allow them to come to you with ideas, you will succeed. You will get something far beyond your wildest imagination. And that will bring everybody's game up. So it's just a beautiful collaboration. So I make sure everybody feels like they've got a seat at the table, that they're loved on, that they're respected, that I look at them like their family. It's so important to me because I want everybody to have a voice in this and I want everybody to feel invested in it. So come with a servant's heart, show them what to do, listen to them, let them bring their best to the game, and then you're going to come out with something so beautiful.
That is so rich and so wise.
Yeah.
You're reminding me several years ago, I was director of Biola University's Cine and Media Arts Department's CBS Studio
Wow.
event that they used to have. And one year we brought Dick Cook in, who was then the president of Walt Disney Studios. And he
Okay.
told the story that he started out driving the choo-choo train at Disneyland. That was his
Yeah.
first job.
How
And came
cool.
up through the ranks of Disney World, Disneyland, and the Disney organization, and how meaningful and important that was to where he was today in
Yes.
understanding what people's jobs were, what they were going through, the challenges that were there. You know, I laughingly, as an actress, I've taught directors how to direct actors. And one of the first things I do is make them act in something. So they actually have an
Yeah.
understanding of what an
Yeah.
actor goes through and how important responsive feedback is to them, the right kind of feedback that you can give them,
Yes.
how you can draw things better out of them from an understanding of what they're going through as an actor. And
Man, communication is so key for a
it is,
directing role. You
it
have to
is.
be able to articulate the vision that you have, and you have to be able to talk the language of the actors. I always, whenever I show up to do an actor's workshop or something from a director's perspective, the first thing I say to them is that you need to walk into every audition, look at that director as if they are your greatest advocate in life, whether that is your mother, your sister, your best friend, whoever your biggest fan is. Look at that director like that, because we want you to succeed. We want you to blow us away. We want you to do something with that role that we never even saw or imagined.
Mhm.
So we are really a great cheerleader for you in that room. So don't be intimidated. Just relax and enjoy,
Right.
and look at us as your biggest cheerleader.
Yes, yes. Well, I love that you are how that you can wear a lot of hats in the industry, but that you know that your real passion and your real strong area is in directing, and that
Yes,
that is really your sweet spot, so to speak.
it
One
is.
of the things
It's my
I'd
happy
love for you
place.
to talk about is some of the things you've learned as a director. I know, going back to what we just talked about too, is I often tell young directors if they want to be a great director, learn how to edit first. Because when you see all the mistakes that directors make, or the shots
Yeah,
they didn't get, or
yeah.
the out of focus things, once you are an editor, then your directing just skyrockets. So there are some little tips like that that I think people don't think about. Tell us some things from a director's point of view, specifically as a woman, because women don't necessarily always get to be a director on a film. We would get, we're in the background quite a bit. In fact, statistics tell us that only 26% of the industry right now is held by those top positions by women. And so, give us some tips that you've learned about being a great director on set. I'd love for you to continue that conversation.
Well, and look, I think if you want to be a great director, put people around you that are greater than you are.
That's a great
Number
tip.
one.
Yeah.
And then secondly, you're not going to have experience in everything. Some directors are better with actors than others. Some directors came with a DP background, and so they're better at lighting. Some directors, maybe first edited and now have stepped behind the camera. So you're going to have your lane that you excel in, but you have to also recognize where you need assistance and where you need help. And I sat in with my editor many times to learn transitions to make sure that my film would cut together very well. I do not edit. I do not edit. I don't want to edit. However, I love having my editor, Bill Ebel. I love having him on set with me. I love seeing my cut, the next day. I love that relationship. We get to shorthand place where we can just really, he knows exactly how I want to cut something just by looking at it on the page. And I always get involved in the script. So I may not have written it to begin with, but I do like to do a pass on it, and I make sure that whether it's on the page or not, my transitions are clear, my shot list is clear. You cannot show up and expect to have success on the day without being prepared with your
Mhm.
shot list, and that I have learned tremendously. And so I used to really rely on my DPs to help me do that, and I don't anymore. I have to be responsible for the shot list, and I have to be responsible for the day. And the only way to keep control over that and to make things happen, and you have to look at your budget and
Yep.
look at what's on the page and say, how do I pull this off? For instance, I had a shoot in Texas. I think it was last summer. It was 110 degrees when we were filming. It was an all exterior day. We had dancing, we had hundreds of extras. It was an incredibly important scene in the movie. And I had to do the shot list 4 times to figure out how to get that day done with excellence, because I knew those extras, those people could not make it more than 7 hours in that heat. It was not going to be a 12-hour day. Nobody was going to make it 12 hours in that day. Not crew, not cast, not anyone. So it was working it and working it and working it and trying to figure it out. And, that's what it takes to get it done. Sometimes you can't just throw money at things and say, well, it's going to take us 2 days to shoot this instead of one. So you've got to be, again, respectful of the budget, respectful of the producers, your cast and crew, and yeah, it really helps if you can be very organized and know where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, it's a pet
Yes.
peeve of mine for these directors that show up on set and figure it out on the day. And so you're not getting a shot off for 2 hours because they spent the first hour trying to figure out how they wanted to light things. So yeah, be prepared on the front end. That, I think that's the best gift I can tell you to do.
Yes. And what happens then is your actors, they lose their energy, and the people around on the set lose their energy waiting around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So being so prepared. If there was one particular thing that you could tell a director that you talked about the shot list, you talked about being present, having knowledge of the budget, all of those kind of things. When you are presented with a script, someone comes in and says, "Hey, Lisa, would you direct this for me?" What's something that you look at on the script, and how do you start that conversation as to whether or not you want to accept in directing that show or production?
Yeah, when I read a script, I'm reading it for the visual story. How am I going to visually tell this story? I see what's on the page. Now, how am I going to visually tell it? And those are the adjustments that I'm going to look at and make for the script, because sometimes uh, I love dialogue as much as anybody else, but sometimes it doesn't get it done. And sometimes you're missing the beats that you need on the page. And so it's finding those moments. It's also being very attuned on the day while you're filming. Am I missing anything? I pray that the Holy Spirit continually influences my day, that is there with me at every moment and breathing into it so that I can find those moments. And I love it when that happens. I love it when something was not planned and then I just all of a sudden it is impressed upon me, to give this a beat, to let this breathe, or to add this in. So you've got to really be attuned to that, so that you can get the best of everything.
Yeah, reshooting gets very expensive these days, doesn't it? And then trying
It's
to
not,
match
it's not,
look,
it
everything.
just shouldn't be an option. Yeah, you need
Yeah.
to go into it thinking this is not an option. I know things happen. I know weather happens. I know some days, performances don't happen, but yeah, you really need to look at it with the make it happen mentality, And I was shooting a TV series and it was a procedural series, and one of the actors was having trouble with part of the procedures. And so I went to the EMTs and I was like, okay, this is we're struggling here. If this happened, then what would happen? And they were like, oh, well, then it's just a shot to the thigh. Okay, great, we're going straight there. So it's just coming up with the answers
Yeah.
on the day and
Yeah.
making sure it works for everybody. Because I've got to have, as the director, you have to have your crews back, but you have to have your actors back. And so you're there to protect them and make sure they can have the best performance that they possibly can.
So, as a director too, you're responsible in hiring the people that are going to come alongside you in making that film in a lot of most of it. How do you make those decisions when there might be conflict from possibly a producer, an executive producer, or possibly somebody has a nephew or relative that they want on the script?
There are always the favors. There always are. And that's
How do you deal
okay.
with that?
I mean, look, I would love to put my grandkids in a movie. Have I done it yet? No, I have not. I have not pulled that card, but
Yeah.
I would love to one day. But and I get it. It's really interesting because the director doesn't always have the control of those things. It depends on your contract. And sometimes
Mhm.
when you're just a work for hire director, I worked a film that I actually stepped in for another director, and everybody was hired but me. Yeah, and so I had very little to do with anything, very little say so. So then it's stepping in with this team that's already meshed and already together, and yeah, being able to work with that village that's already been put together, and that can be a beautiful experience too. I don't think any film ever stretched me as much or made me grow as much than that one, because I had no safety nets. I had not worked with most of the people before, and I didn't know shorthand with the team. So and my village grew tremendously. Having
Mhm.
said that, though, I do, I have to look at the DP for the project. Is this based on the look and feel that I want? I'm going for those talents, for that type. If I want a lot of movement, I'm going for that. It's all of that goes into play with color and movement and cameras and, the cast. We don't have, a lot of mine are moderate budgets. We're not going to have a lot of time to mess around, so it has to be a veteran that can really just run with it. And I'm not going to have a lot of downtime trying to get the performance out of them. I'm never going to be that director that's going to take like 10 takes plus. I am not that person. I know what I want. Hopefully, I'm casting that vision to them, and hopefully, 3 to 4 takes, we're moving on. I mean,
Mm.
that's typically what I like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
What happens when you have someone on the crew or in a key position and they're just not pulling their weight? And as the director, you're responsible for that look and that movie. How have you been able to deal with navigating that person and firing them off the crew? Actually, have you ever been in that position and having to do that?
I don't think I have during production. I did have some changes in pre-production on a project. It was really interesting. God was just clearing the deck for some reason. And it was scary. It was at the last minute. But boy, the team that we pulled together just really made it work. And it was just one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had. You just have to trust. I do believe in a lot of grace for people, in this industry in particular. Like, me in my 20s and 30s was probably impossible to put up with. I had so much ego and so much of it's got to have my hand on it.
Yeah.
And then what time teaches you is to open your fist, let go, let others be a part of it, right? So when I see that happening on set, I see somebody getting territorial, I just lovingly have a one-on-one conversation with them. It is your role. However, we're a family, we're a unit, we're a community, and we all want to collaborate on this. And honestly, we'll get the best if we do. So let's let go a little bit. Let's
Yeah.
embrace other people, coming into our world, so to speak. Yeah.
Such great wisdom, because being a part of director isn't just directing the film, but it's directing everybody on that set, to get
Yeah.
the best out of them.
Yeah. And
Which
when
is
I started directing, I can't tell you another female that was directing when I
right.
started directing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I never saw that. I never saw that. It's so interesting. I never saw that until I started getting the Women in Film Awards. And I was like, what is this about? I'm just a director like everybody
Yeah.
else,
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to have the faith in yourself that you can, if you feel led to, and if you feel called to this role, it is there for you. And you literally got to step out of the boat and onto the water, and just with that blind faith, trust and believe that it's going to happen. And just, really try and put people around you that believe in you, that believe in, your purpose, and make sure that you're pouring into them even more than they're pouring into you.
Oh, I love that last comment. Yes, because it really is about relationships and the bigger picture, that I think
Yes.
God calls us to. And we love
Yes.
our career, we love what we do, but the bigger picture is what's that kingdom purpose and how
Yeah.
our lives resonating in the lives of others. For God's
Yeah, and so
eternal
much of it is just like
purpose.
one connection that people are missing. I mean, I have a producers group, and you can ask any of those ladies. Like, I'm like, who do you need to talk to? What door can I open? If I have the contact, I give it over to them. It's not mine to hold on to. And that's a mistake that I think, we make, is that we make this big, oh, now I have this Netflix contact, I'm not going to tell anyone. Well,
Yeah.
no, you should tell everyone. I mean, let's help sisters. Let's help everybody get things done. I mean, it's hard enough to get anything made, let's open those doors for each other. So I try and live by that. And if anybody asks me for a connection, I do my best to open that door for them.
That's so good. That's so good. That's what it's all about. One of the
Yeah.
things that I'm finding with influence women in particular is that we are on the same page.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are, the Lord Jesus Christ is the center of our lives, and
Yes.
we're doing what we're doing, and our life is showing who we are as the body of Christ working together. Then that's such a testimony to those who are
Yeah.
around us and making that movie with us. And if we're
Yeah.
not there supporting and helping each other, then it's a loss. I see so many times in Hollywood here, we have some other secular organization, women in film, women in entertainment. And I see more and more women gravitating now into influence women coming up to me saying, this is refreshing to be here, because when I've been at some of these other organizations, it's all about them and what they're doing. And in this organization, it's what we're doing for kingdom purposes. We're all on the same page
Right.
and we're working together.
Right, for
So
sure. And
so important.
look, we need to help each other. I definitely have a lot of men in the industry that really help and support me, but I also have many men of faith in this industry that won't answer a call. So, we've got to do what we got to do and help each other open all
That's
those
right.
doors.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I love the name of your production company, Check the Gate Productions.
Thank you. Not many
I
people
love
get it
that.
anymore, but
I,
I've had it for a long time.
I
So,
love that title. And for those people who are not familiar with that terminology, Check the Gate, tell us how you came up with that name. What
yeah.
is Check the Gate, and
Yeah,
how does that
because
played into
now
what
on
you do? Yeah.
now on set we say playback, let me see the
Yeah.
playback. But
Right.
when we were filming on film, we had to go and check the gate. So yeah, so it's just a terminology from the older days of filmmaking that I just absolutely loved. And yeah, so grabbed it.
Yeah. Well, I resonated with it when I saw that, when I saw that the name of your production company, because we need to be checking the gate in our own lives as
Oh,
Christians,
that's good.
you
I did
know?
not think it through that deeply, but yeah, that's great.
We need to check the game. What we've been talking about is how is what we're doing going to be really worthwhile and resonate and be seen in the future, and what does it really look like? And that's what checking the gate's all about, is making sure that we got our ducks in a row and doing and we've got the picture right.
Our world has changed so much since I started in this industry. I mean, in the beginning, there was hardly room for one female on any team, and so it was very competitive for us, right? We couldn't really support each other. But it's very different now. So lift up your sisters, lift up all your friends, lift up all the men in your industry, in your circle. Let's just we can all get it done together. Like the Lord said to me, bring the body together. We all have a part to play.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Well, it's been great having you with us. If you could leave us with one thing you wish you'd learned in your 20s that you know now, what would be that one thing that God's been teaching you, maybe even recently, or that you've learned now in the industry that you wish you'd known in your 20s, that you might impart and leave a little bit of wisdom as we wrap up this podcast?
Oh, yes. Be humble. Always keep learning. Uh, love on each other, support each other, and just know together, if we pull together, we're going to make something much greater than we ever could alone. So we need each other. I think that's so important. And one last thing I'll leave you with. I feel like another thing that the Lord is really in my face about right now is we need more platforms. We need more opportunities to get faith and family content out there. Our ability to co-view anything in our household has disappeared because of TVMA warnings. And but it's going to take all of us, and I'm talking to people not in the industry. I'm talking to the billionaires out there who are throwing all their money into politics thinking that's going to make a difference. our medium sets culture. Our medium sets culture. We define culture. If you want to change the way things are going in our world right now, let's invest in programming that is, yes, entertaining above all else, but also shows healthy families, that entire family from a 6-year-old to an 80-year-old can get together. Just as we come to the table for dinner, we can come to the couch and watch TV together again, and really get back to enjoying programming together again, instead of all going in our own separate ways and isolating ourselves. So
So
get
good.
behind us, get behind anybody in your world that is trying to make a difference in faith and family content, because we desperately need it right now.
Boy, I just so resonate with that.
Yes.
That's what we're all about with Influence Women is stop complaining and
Yeah.
protesting what you're seeing in your screen and start supporting the people that can change what you see in the screen.
Yes.
If we're going to
Yes.
change the culture, we got to change the media and what we're seeing, and we've got to support those who are creating that media and entertainment. So
That's
great
right.
word,
That's right.
great final word. Love it, love it, love it. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being with us today. I know what you've said in the wisdom and all of the tips and information, particularly about directing, which a lot of women don't get that kind of inside information anymore, is going to be so helpful in their careers and in what they're doing. So thanks so much for being with us on the Influence Women podcast today.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Great to be with you.
Well, thanks for joining us today for the Influence Women podcast with Lisa Arnold. I know that she left you with some great tips and wisdom that resonated in your life. So share it with other people by sharing this podcast. Like us, follow us, and don't forget to click the bell below for notifications for the next Influence Women podcast. Also, if you're not a member of Influence Women, you need to be. Join us at influencewomen.org and become a member today. Join the community of women around the world who are wanting to flourish and grow their skills and talents. Join us at influencewomen.org. We'll see you next time for the podcast.